Organisers have been forced to defend asking members of the public to pledge allegiance to the King following an angry backlash. They've since stressed that it is optional rather than an expectation or a request. Well, joining me now to debate this fiery issue is staunch Republican and CEO of the organisation Republic, Graham Smith, and ardent Royalist Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, I'm going to start with you. Are we all getting a little bit overexcited about this? Surely this is just something that you can do if you want to do, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to do it.
Good heavens, of course it is. But I think we are. I think you hit the point. Absolutely. We are getting excited because the coronation is only a few days away now, and you're going to have billions of people watching it round the globe, millions in Britain and also in the other 14 countries of the Commonwealth, which are the King's realms. Now, so far as optional, anyone suggesting that it wasn't optional is being absolutely absurd. The whole idea is that instead of the homage that was after the enthroning, when the king is on his throne and homage is being paid by the Archbishop of Canterbury and then by the Prince of Wales, people will have the option of saying, if they want to say more, it's entirely up to them, God save the king, if they want to. Why not? It's a rather good idea. We're in the age of social media. If people don't want to, they can say exactly what they like. But the idea that in any sense whatsoever, it wasn't optional is absolutely absurd. I mean, this is, however, a wonderful opportunity for Britain. Britain, the showcase of the world, and for soft power. It's marvellous. And I think you'll find it a very, very moving ceremony, one that's diverse and one also far more in tune with our times, perhaps, than some people had expected. It will be spectacular, and those who've worked for the communities make up a very large number of the guests.
Graham, what's the big deal about this?
Well, I mean, no one has ever been suggesting that it is anything other than optional, but it is a bizarre suggestion which has been met with widespread mockery as well as some anger and irritation. Because, I mean, in a democracy, the head of state should be pledging allegiance to us. We should not be pledging allegiance to him.
But he is going to pledge allegiance to us, Graham. Graham, sorry to interrupt, but he is going to pledge allegiance to us.
Well, I don't think he is. No, he's going to say some kind of pledge some kind of allegiance to serve, but it's all very much wrapped up in a Christian ceremony rather than an allegiance to the people of the UK. But, you know, the point is that, you know, this is clearly jarred with a huge number of the public. You know, yesterday morning when this news came out, number of people signing up for our protest, joining up, buying stuff on our shop, donating, suddenly started going up quite quickly because people were just irritated that it was such a presumptuous idea that we should be somehow taking an oath of allegiance to the king during this coronation. Only 9%, according to one recent poll, are enthusiastic about this coronation. Most people are not interested in the monarchy. The idea that billions of people will be watching around the world is complete fiction. That's been debunked. You know, it will have millions of people in this country because it's on a Saturday and people will want to see at least some of it. But most people are not interested.
But Graham, before I bring Richard back in, the royal family knows that they only get to be the head of state and the royal family if we allow them to. It is by our consent. And certainly all polls suggest that a majority of people are quite happy with the status quo.
Well, there is falling support for the monarchy. Some polls are putting it down as far as low as 55%. It's been up around 75% for most of the last 20 years.
55% is still a majority.
It's not, yeah, but it's not a majority of people who are enthusiastic about it. Most of those people are fairly indifferent and are simply being asked, do you want to keep it, yes or no? And they're going, well, why not? You know, this is borne out by the enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm around the big events. You know, two polls, one said 15%, one said 9% are enthusiastic.
There'll be a lot of enthusiasm on the weekend. Just you wait and see, believe me.
Well, on the Mall there will be, yes. And all the cameras we pointed at the people who are enthusiastic.
The community day. But may I just point specifically, you made the point, that regarding service, the coronation oath, the king pledges, he will uphold the law, and he will serve. He will serve us. That's what monarchy is about. It's about service.
He'll
It's
do
about
is serve
national
himself.
unity,
I mean, this is
and also it is above party politics. That is what it's about, not the power.
It's
the
not. I mean,
the power denies to others. That's what it's about.
The monarch will serve himself, as he has done so many times, with helping himself to hundreds of millions of pounds of our money. I mean, he's now spending £250 million during a cost of living crisis on his pointless vanity parade. It is completely unnecessary to have a coronation in this day and age. He has already avoided paying huge amounts of tax last year on his inheritance. He routinely spends hundreds of millions of pounds on our money on
throw up this opportunity.
No, this is not an institution of service.
Well, let's talk about. Hang on, I'm just going to interrupt you both there because I don't want you both talking over each other, because I do want to hear genuinely what you both have to say. But let's just talk about this point about the finances of it. Some people saying, it's going to be hundreds of millions of pounds. We don't know yet what the cost is going to be of the coronation, but plenty of people saying that the income that it will bring in, either to the hospitality industry or tourism or whatever it might be.
It doesn't happen.
Well,
it doesn't happen. We are currently talking to a team of economists who have looked at this. There is no evidence that the coronation will help with the economy. In fact, it will be a negative impact, because there's a public holiday which will wipe something like £1.3 billion off the economy. These big events usually depress overseas visitors because people decide to stay away to avoid the disruption. And there is no evidence at all that the monarchy brings in tourism. It's also not there to bring in tourism. It's there as part of our constitution. And we should not base our constitution on what people enjoy doing on their holiday.
Well, I wasn't saying that it was there, that was its primary cause, but I was implying that that was a happy byproduct. But let me bring Richard in, because Richard, where do you stand on the figures, the statistics, the finances of the royals? Because a coronation is expensive. We know that a bank holiday is also expensive to GDP, to UK PLC. Well, what is the evidence that this brings in oodles of money that we wouldn't get if it wasn't for the royals?
Well, so far as the finances on the royal family, just to make one point on this, the official figures are 77p per person per year, excluding security, up to 1.29p per person per year when you take into account the refurbishment of Buckingham Palace, which is 369 million, and which is, as far as I know, on schedule. If you really want to waste the money, have a look at the Palace of Westminster. It's going to be, 22 billion or some such. It's utterly bizarre. The point with reference to the particular ceremony, if you costed every ceremony and then said that the public finances are being charged, well, you wouldn't have a royal jubilee, you wouldn't have a royal wedding, simply because the costs of the soft power, the benefits of the soft power aspect of it aren't quantifiable in the sense of tourism, in the sense of royal warrants, in the sense of royal
benefits are never quantifiable.
The whole thing is magnificent, and nowhere else in the world have they got anything like it. That is why our monarchy is the world's most high profile, and that does matter.
Richard,
why are the heads of state coming if it's nothing?
The reason why you can't quantify this, Richard, the reason why you can't quantify the benefits is because they don't exist. That's why you're looking around and you can't find the quantified. The quantities it's because they're not there.
A single political party support you. Major political party.
Well, now you're changing the subject. Let's stick on this claim. These unquantifiable benefits, Richard, they're unquantifiable because they're not there. You are looking at the Emperor's new clothes and determining that he's got an amazing suit. It doesn't exist.
People celebrating, you say that the people aren't there. You say nobody's interested. 56%.
I didn't say nobody's interested. I said 9% is interested. Out of 9%, you can get 750,000 people, whatever it would be, on the mount.
But
the polling, Richard, the polling is done by serious polling companies. It's being done routinely on YouGov, Savanta, Ipsos Mori. I mean, all of the polling companies are doing this polling, and people are not interested. As a royalist, Richard, you are in a small minority.
As you found out with the various jubilees, and look what happened with the Golden Jubilee, which was 1990s was a tough time for the monarchy, yet it was a triumph. And the Guardian was writing.
It was a triumph for you because you're a royalist, but it was a complete waste of money for everybody else. It didn't help the economy, and all it was
Graham,
a celebration of a corrupt
let me bring you back, because
institution.
Graham, you accused Richard of inventing advantages of having a royal family, but it's equally difficult to prove a negative, as in what a lot of Republicans say is we would have all this tourism if we didn't have the royal family. We would still have the palaces, we would still have the beautiful buildings, we would still have the country, all the sort of trappings and traditions. But that is impossible to prove, just like a lot of what Richard is saying is impossible to prove.
It's not impossible to prove that we'll still have the buildings. No one's going to demolish palaces.
It's impossible to prove we still have the tourists.
Well, no, it's not really, because if you look at why people come here, you know that it's not because we have the monarchy. Now, we have looked at the evidence, and we've also spoken to Visit Britain. In 2011, we challenged Visit Britain on a press release they put out. I met with the chair and the CEO of Visit Britain, and I said to them directly, there is no evidence if there wasn't a monarchy, if we abolished it, that tourism would go down. And they said, yes, you're right, there is no such evidence. People do not come here because we have the monarchy. They're simply...
Look at the brand finance report.
I have looked at the brand finance report, and our economists...
the
brand finance report...
Yeah, that's what
Richard,
they said.
the brand finance report is nonsense. It is nonsense report. It has no sources and no evidence, and we have a team of economists who have torn it to pieces.
And you've never had...
You keep changing the... Well, that's because it's a politician's monarchy, Richard. It helps the politicians. They love it because it gives them so much power. But the brand finance report is absolute nonsense.
Richard, I'm going to let you have... You need a few seconds to explain why you don't think that report is nonsense, just without interruption.
Why I don't think the report is nonsense, because it listed benefits that the royal family brought to Britain. You were talking about films.
With no evidence at all.
So you're talking about soft power when royals go abroad, what the money that's brought in for British business. Britannia, for example, the amount that was benefited Britain. And so far as charitable work is concerned, royal warrants, they brought that in.
No, there's been a very detailed report saying they do add nothing to charity at all.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to jump in and draw a close to this. I know that at least one of you is going to thoroughly enjoy the events on Saturday.
I'll be protesting, enjoying that protest.
And Graham, you will be enjoying a protest, as you have every right to do in this country. And thank you both for using your right to free speech here on Talk this afternoon.